What is going on, everyone out there in IB Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, IB Nation Sports Talk. I'm Vince D'Addario. That guy over there is Jesse Stiers. It is imminently away. We are imminent from Thanksgiving and the stuffing of faces and all the fun stuff that will happen on Thanksgiving. Not to mention football and what that entails. Jesse's rocking his Cowboys hat, not surprisingly, since the Cowboys are going to be playing here in about 24 hours as well. You got a new sweatshirt. Is that new?
Yeah.
I like it.
Just the star. It's simple.
Simple, and yet everybody knows what it is.
You know what's crazy is I bought this. This is like the sideline sweatshirt this year, I think, because I saw some of the coaches wearing it. I think that was like 2 months ago at this point. Before they were bad. I guess that's where I'm getting at with this story is they beat the Giants on like Thursday night. And I was like, you know what? Like, I knew they weren't going to be good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't think they were going to be like, Super Bowl champions or something like that. But
yeah,
definitely didn't think they'd be as bad as they are right now. But when they won that Giants game, I was like, you know what? That sweatshirt looks sweet. I haven't bought a new Cowboys sweatshirt in a while. Here we go. And so I bought it, but I can't complain because it's super light. It's super simple.
Okay.
And even if they suck, I don't care because
you know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. We're surrounded by Michigan fans too, and they suck, so they still wear their gear. But anytime I can find a way to sneak in a Michigan cut, I'm going to take it. So, all right, everybody. So it's Mailbag Wednesday, and at the moment we have all questions from Salty, which is great. I love the fact that he props us up. Very much so. Love that. Yeah, but other people are allowed to ask questions too. So if you want to jump in and ask a question, you are more than welcome to do so. But we're probably going to lead off and continue with Salty questions until we get some other ones. So the numbers are rising slowly, and we realize it is the night before Thanksgiving. People are potentially traveling and doing all kinds of different things, and having some fun that may not involve IB Nation Sports Talk. It's a possibility, but we're here. Excuse me. We're going to stick around as long as we need to answer everybody's questions, and we do a little rapid fire, and then we'll be off to celebrate the holidays ourselves. So, all right, that one was sneaking up on me there for a while. All right, here we go. So let's get into some of these questions. And here's a good one from Salty right off the stick, Jesse.
Is Deion Sanders the most important coach in the Big 12? Important is intentionally vague to expand the scope of your discussion.
Wow. Okay.
Let me.
The most important coach in the Big 12. That's is he the most talked about coach in the Big 12? Yes. Does he always bring the kind of media that you want? I'm not sure the answer to that one, to be honest with you, but there's the whole, all news is good news kind of a thing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's negative, doesn't matter if it's positive, as long as the light is shining on the Big 12. But right now, the Big 12 has a bit of an image problem, and I'm not sure even Deion can fix that at the present.
I would say, to me, I just had to pull up the Big 12 standings just to get a refresher of who's everyone's coaches. I mean, I think it comes down to Deion Sanders at Colorado, Lance Leopold at Kansas, and is Mike Van Gundy at Oklahoma State. I would say it, and I guess how I'm interpreting important is level of popularity / also being a good football head coach. And that's why my list comes down to Leopold, Van Gundy, and Sanders. If you're talking about important, like you were saying, in terms of, who's bringing the most attention, who's bringing the most spotlight, then of course it's Deion. I mean, his literal nickname is primetime. Like that's all he did during his playing career. But if we're, factoring in coaching and some of these other aspects, I have a lot of respect for Lance Leopold and Van Gundy as well.
I like that answer. Can't really disagree with you on that one. Deion is Deion. He's bigger than the game, if you will, for a lot of different reasons. And I agree with you. All right, here's one that hits close to home here from Tyler Evans.
Who has a higher chance of winning tomorrow, the Chicago Bears or the Dallas Cowboys? Vince, who do the Bears play tomorrow?
They play the Detroit Lions. Yeah, not a great.
Oh, that's easily the Cowboys because the Cowboys are playing the Giants, and the Giants are starting Tommy DeVito. I think
they certainly are.
Coming off that scorching victory against the Commanders, I think the Cowboys are going to ride this momentum a little bit and steal another game, especially on Thanksgiving. It's nice. I told my dad last week when we were watching the game. Well, we weren't watching it together, but we were texting during the game, and I said,
"Sure."
At this point, I want them to lose every game, Vince, because they're not going to go to the playoffs, and I'd like a high draft pick. But if they're going to win games, I want them to win the the division games. Just because I hate the Giants, I hate the Commanders, and I hate the Eagles. And so was I looking for them to win against the Commanders? No, but was it a nice, pleasant surprise? Yeah. And at this point, it's like, I kind of like that they dominate the NFC East. And so even in their bad years, it's fun to say, oh, well, we still beat the Commanders, and we still like the Commanders and the Giants. They can't beat Dallas, no matter how good or bad they are at the end of the day. The only team that I've worried about the last 10 years is the Eagles, to be quite honest with you. So long story short, I think the Cowboys have the easier game tomorrow, and I don't mind them winning because it's against a divisional opponent.
Yeah, I think this is a no-brainer. I mean, the Cowboys should beat the Giants, first of all. And so I don't know. I haven't looked at like spreads or anything like that. That's kind of your territory there, Jess. But I don't think that I would think that the Cowboys are probably favored in this game, and the Bears certainly are not favored against the Lions in Detroit. That has all the makings of a beatdown. And it's going to be awesome. Like my father-in-law is a Lions fan, and for many, many years, it's always been him kind of taking it, taking that L on Thanksgiving. And I don't think that that's going to be the case this year. So the tables have definitely turned, and it's going to be a happy turkey day for him, and probably not for me. So go Cowboys. All right, here we go. This is an interesting one from Salty. You have to put your thinking cap on for this one.
Is lacrosse the best choice of complementary sports for high school footballer to play? Vince, it was funny last night. I was watching the I like when these kind of questions come up because I can tie it into something else.
There we go.
I was watching KU basketball, men's basketball, played Duke last night, men's basketball, and Kansas has this guy number 24, Adams Jr., and they basically they were like, oh, he's so athletic because of playing lacrosse, or like the reason why KU loves him is because he has the athleticism from all the cutting and running from lacrosse. And so my mind naturally went, well, if you play another sport, like you're naturally going to be more athletic, right? Because you're doing more things that involve cutting and running and that sort of stuff. So when I heard them say that last night, I just felt like it was so unnecessary, because if you play another sport, you're just naturally going to be quicker, faster, more athletic and all that stuff. So, and this question is, what is the best complementary sport for a high school football player? I don't think it has to be lacrosse. I think it's anything that gets your body sprinting and cutting on a dime, basically. You know what I mean? The athleticism that it takes to kind of, full speed sprint and cut. And so, like, obviously you're probably not going to get that from baseball. You might get it from basketball. You get it from track. So I would say, maybe soccer as well. So I would say, like anything but baseball, I think is really complimentary for football. Basketball, I think is.
Those are the two sports you played.
Complimentary. I think soccer is pretty complimentary as well. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think that this is anything dependent to lacrosse. I think as long as you're like getting up to top sprint speed and having to cut around, I think anything is good in terms of complimentary to be a football player.
That's a very roundabout word salady answer there, Jesse Stiers. But I'm okay with it. And I do think DK makes a point. He says it depends on your position, which is absolutely true. I would still say the top two for me that translate the best are track and field and wrestling. Those are the two for me. No doubt about it. It's funny because one of my best friends is the track coach at the high school that my kid goes to, and he'll sit there and we'll watch the game, the high school football games together. And he'll be like, anytime somebody scores a touchdown, he'll be like, that's a track kid. That's a track kid. And I looked at him, I was like, dude, every single position player that plays is a track kid, including the kicker. I said every point that is scored by this team will be by a track kid. Stop saying it. But he makes a good point. The football team is fast because they run track. You know what I mean? And so I think track is very complimentary. And then I always want my defensive linemen to be wrestlers. I just, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, I want those guys to be wrestlers. If you play defense, be a wrestler. You know what I mean? Like that really translates over for me, just from a body control situation.
I would say that was probably one of my bigger regrets in high school, was not wrestling. But I'm pretty sure I've told you this before. Unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, I guess I was maybe looking at the situation wrong, but the head football coach was also the wrestling coach. And that was just too much time for me to be spent with one person.
Especially that particular person.
I think is the nicest way to put that one.
Well, I don't have to be nice. That was too much time to spend with that person specifically. I completely agree with you. Football season was long and arduous due to that. So I'll just
I think, and that's the thing is like I didn't like wrestling very much, and I think that factored into it. It made the decision a lot easier. But I think if it were a coach that I was like, you know what, I think this guy, anyone other than who it was, I think I would have been way more open to it.
Yes,
but I definitely.
Well, your dad was a wrestler.
Well, again,
your dad was a wrestler, obviously. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But wow, Salty coming at you hard. Right. Did you see that? Okay, well, I don't know. I don't think that's really a mailbag question because I don't think you can come up with 10. I don't feel like your life is that bad. But all right, here we go. How about one from Tyler Evans? This will be a fairly good one, and I believe it's Al Golden, not Al Gould. But all right, Tyler Evans says, do you think Al Golden's name will be brought up with the North Carolina Tar Heels job? I do believe it will come up. I do not believe that there's any, there's nothing to it. Al Golden is not leaving Notre Dame to be the head coach at North Carolina. I do not see that ever happen. I don't see that happening. His name will be brought up because he's a Broyles Award, he will be a Broyles Award finalist, I believe. He's a really good coach, but I do not think that he's going to North Carolina. So I don't think it even matters that his name will be brought up. Again, all good coaches' names will come up. He's a good coach. He has head coaching background. I just do not see it. What do you think, Jess?
I think that I had this conversation actually last night with my dad before he left this morning, but I still believe Al Golden has no ambitions to be a college head coach. And I think that if he were to go anywhere else, I think he'd go back to the NFL. If he were to leave, I think he's in the best possible position as a coordinator in college. And I don't believe he has ambition to be a college head coach. So again, the only thing that I think he would do is potentially go on and be like a defensive coordinator back in the NFL someday. I don't see him moving around college anymore.
Well, and you add to the fact that his kid is a freshman at Notre Dame. That's not the be all end all, but I feel like that's part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he has any plans to leave. He just signed a 4-year contract with Notre Dame. Not that contracts can't be broken. I just don't see him leaving. I think he's got a good thing going right now, and the future is very bright on the defensive side of the ball as well. So I just don't see it, frankly. Okay, let's move back up to the top here. Oh, I'm going to stay away from that. Here, how about this one?
Salty wants to know, should coaches increase their social media presence, as we have seen with both Sanders and Trump, to be elite recruiters with today's athletes? I mean, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. I think that's definitely a tactic, right? Like that's something that you can do. I don't see it as being like the end all be all, but like I don't ever see. The only time I see Marcus Freeman on social media is when he does those video drops for whatever's going on, like when they unveil like the Shamrock Series uniforms or the skit last year with Hartman and Estime when I think they were, debuting the green jerseys or whatever. I don't think it's necessary, but if it's called for and it's something that you have identified that the recruits are drawing attention to, then yeah, go ahead and do it. But I don't see it as being like you have to do it type situation or you're going to lose out on recruits.
I don't think the elite recruiters need to be on social media at all, to be honest with you. The high level Notre Dame's, Texas, Ohio State, those guys don't need to be on social media at all, to be honest. I think social media is more for the lower level schools and reaching out to recruits and recruits, promoting themselves and things like that. Like first touch contact right now in 2024 is via social media. Like that's how you get in touch with recruits if you are not one of the elite level schools. I mean, that it starts with DMs and then, phone numbers are exchanged and, you go through it like that. But first touch is usually through social media, but that's not usually how it goes if you're Notre Dame or, one of those big, a big school. So no, I don't think that a social media presence is necessary at all for elite level recruiters. I just don't. That's more for lower levels to be active on social media and things of that nature. All right. Let's see here. How about this one from Anthony?
December 31st, 1973, wasn't around on that date, versus Alabama is my greatest Notre Dame moment. November 30th, 1974 versus USC is my worst. What is your best and worst Notre Dame moments?
I'll let you think about it because I did see this question and I was already been thinking about it. Or I have
my worst.
Okay,
I have my
go
worst
for it.
Ready.
What do you got?
Worst would be Bush Push or the national championship against Alabama.
The national championship against Alabama was over before it started, so that one didn't hurt as much because it was just a bad game all the way through. That's what it felt like anyway. The Bush Push is number one for me. October 15th, 2005. Bad day. What ended up being a bad day. It was a great day before the final play. But yeah, just the roller coaster of emotions. That is absolutely the worst. And then best would probably have to go all the way back to before you were born, 1993, the Florida State Notre Dame game. That was probably the best moment for me. So that's best and worst for me. Unfortunately, there haven't been enough bests lately.
I would say 2014 Michigan was pretty good, beating them 37-0. Outside of that, it's hard to, like, these suck because since 96 they don't really have a New Year's Six win. They don't have a national championship. So you got to identify, a regular season win. And to me, I think their best regular season win was on the road against Oklahoma the year they went to the national championship. I would say that's probably the top moment for me because it felt like at least in that season Notre Dame belonged. You know what I mean? Going on the road and beating a program like Oklahoma, playing as well as they did on.
Yeah, I absolutely get that. Let's see what else we can find here. Let's go up and see if we got another one from Salty. Mm-hmm. Oh, we did that one already. Take that one out. Here we go. How about this one? A little NIL question.
Notre Dame is rumored to have NIL numbers equivalent to Ohio State's. Is the perception that doesn't need a revision, or it does, and or does it need upfront NIL? Do you know what that? Maybe I just read that question wrong.
I think, basically, I think the question means, Notre Dame's spending money, but they're not doing it the same way other people do it. It's not a blank check for kids coming into Notre Dame. Like that's the upfront money, right? So, do you think Notre Dame needs to be in the upfront money NIL space or do it the way they're doing it currently?
Yeah, I like the way that they do it currently. I don't think Notre Dame ever needs to be this, empty checkbook. You tell us what you want and we'll write the check type situation. And the reason I believe that is because of the way that Marcus Freeman sells the university to everyone, and what else Notre Dame can do for you outside of some upfront capital, essentially, right? Because you can go anywhere and get some upfront capital. I think it's more important of what is Notre Dame going to provide you when football is all said and done, and what a degree, how much money a degree is going to make you from Notre Dame down the road. So I think if you package together, the NIL collective, the education, the faith, playing for Marcus Freeman, I don't think you need to be a program that's just going to cut checks to whoever.
I hate the upfront NIL money. I am not a fan of that. I'm happy that I'm a fan of Notre Dame and the way that they do it. If you perform, you make money. If you're on the team, you're going to make some money, but you're not going to be guaranteed millions if you've literally done nothing on the field. And I'm okay with that. Prove yourself, and then you'll get paid. Like, the people that are proving themselves on Notre Dame's roster are getting plenty of money. They're getting paid. I very much dislike, for example, the Bryce Underwood situation, and he's going to be guaranteed $12 million just to sign with Michigan. Like, that is absurd. That is absolutely absurd. Before you've done anything in a Michigan uniform, you're going to be guaranteed $12 million. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And I don't want to follow a team that does that. I don't think you need to do that. I really don't. And I think Notre Dame is well on their way to proving the fact that they don't have to do that. I really do. So
I think when you're desperate, you have to do a lot of things.
Absolutely correct. And I can't tell if Mike is upset with this comment. He says they will never get the big fish without pay to play. That's a reality. So they have to find guys they can develop. Disagree. Number one, you're never going to get the guy that wants the bag. But not every one of the big fish wants the bag. I don't think people understand that. That's an absolute fact. So I disagree with that. And what's wrong with finding guys that you can develop also? I don't is everybody here convinced that Bryce Underwood is going to be the savior of Michigan football? Is $12 million worth it? I don't see it, but I guess we'll see. Notre Dame can get big fish without paying big money up front. They can, and they will, and they have. So I don't see that being an issue. I just don't. So, all right. You know what? We got a super chat here from Big Hoss. He says, "Love the show, boys." Thanks, Big Hoss. Appreciate you very much. Would love to hear your Mount Rushmore of Thanksgiving dinner side dishes. This could be good.
First and foremost, stuffing has to be on my list. I don't know about you, Vince.
I'm a fan of stuffing because you can only have 4 top ones, right? You can only have 4. So does it make your 4? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, stuffing definitely makes my 4.
Okay.
Number 3, and this is in no particular order. Mashed potatoes and gravy or cheesy potatoes, just any form of potato. So I think you can have sweet potato, mashed potato, cheesy potatoes. Any form of potato is up there on my Mount Rushmore as well.
That I completely agree with. And we kind of talked about this yesterday. Either like a garlic mashed or a cheesy potato, like that kind of neighborhood of potato. I am in on that one for sure. Yeah, definitely.
And then my next one would be macaroni and cheese.
Bingo. Have to have the mac baked. It's got to be the baked kind.
Yep.
It can't be like Kraft or like anything. Nope. It's got to be the baked mac and cheese.
It needs that layer of melted cheese on the top.
Correct. 100% agree with that.
And then my final would be corn casserole, to be honest with you.
Ooh, that's solid.
It's like corn that's baked into a cornbread.
Like cornbread, yeah. Heck yeah.
So like that's where I would end my Mount Rushmore.
I don't know what I would take out. That's a problem. I got potatoes. We've got mac and cheese, stuffing, and the corn casserole. I'm in. I'm in.
No green bean casserole.
No. The only thing that might sneak in would be the can-shaped cranberry sauce.
I was gonna say, does cranberry sauce end up
Like,
on your list?
it
That's a
has
big
to
one
be-
for my dad.
It has to be the can-shaped one, though. Like, it can't be like the berries and stuff like that. It's got to be the stuff that's terrible for you. That I like. It's like you open it up and it's like, and it just pops out onto the plate like that.
Like a gelatin.
Yes. That is what it has to be. But that's a great question, Big Hoss. You're just making me hungry for tomorrow. We've got everything ready to go in the fridge. I'm excited about it. I'm excited. That's all there is to it. I'm excited about it. Let's stay on this road here of Thanksgiving food from Joe M.
Deep fried turkey or traditional bake? I don't know if I've had deep fried turkey, so I would say
never have.
I'm more of a traditional. I guess I have to default to being a traditional guy.
Yeah. I was wondering if you have, because I never have, so I can't even speak to the deep fried thing. So I got to default to the traditional. So that question did not hit as well as I thought it would.
My parents made, I believe, so my dad definitely smoked a brisket for us while they're gone, and I can't remember if they did ham or turkey as well. But
Ooh.
we have two forms of meat, and one of them is definitely brisket.
Brisket. Wow. Okay. What? I think the pertinent question here is, with your mom and dad out of town in an island paradise, what does your Thanksgiving look like tomorrow?
Yeah, so originally it was just going to be my sister and I, and probably just, hanging around watching football together. But
fair.
One of my good friends lives in the area, and his grandparents live in the area, and his mom recently kind of passed within the last few months, and so he invited us to come over there. So I'll likely kind of go over there just to distract him, because I feel like it's going to be a hard Thanksgiving for him this year.
I hear that. Well, and there's the little guy around and stuff like that to play with, right?
His dad's coming to town. His sister's coming to town. So
awesome.
They're like kind of like a second family to me. So I got nowhere to go besides sitting at the house. So Bailey and I will probably make our way over there at some point.
Nice. I dig it. I think that's a great idea. You make sure you tell him and that family hi for me, since I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about. All right. Let's see. Let's see here what we got next. Go ahead.
Fix my internet.
Oh, there we go. I was gonna say, you're freezing up, my man. Okay. So I will throw this one up and I will answer it while Jesse figures all that out. Let's see here. From Salty says, what are the details regarding ticket sales for Notre Dame playoff game? And is IB considered a group purchase for members who sign up for such tickets? So my understanding is at the moment it is only out to season ticket holders. They have the opportunity to purchase X amount of tickets. It's not just how many season tickets that they have, but like X amount of tickets. And they are very reasonably priced, which I love, by the way. I think it's the one thing the NCAA did correctly in this whole college football playoff and in general, everything that they do. And so everything is very reasonably priced, and season ticket holders have first dibs. And then I believe they're going to open up to the public. What that looks like, I'm not exactly sure, but there's going to be plenty of tickets available for the home game for Notre Dame, because from what I heard, they're only going to allow 5,000 or a lot. Excuse me. They're going to allot 5,000 tickets for the visitor, and the rest is by the home team. And the ticket prices were set by the NCAA or the college football playoff. But the school itself is in charge of distributing said tickets. Season ticket holders have until December 6th to make that purchase. And they will get it all figured out by then and then distribute to everybody else, I suppose. So, of course, we find out on December 8th, I do believe, what the path is for Notre Dame. But I think at this point, I think you can feel pretty good about the fact that Notre Dame is going to be hosting a game, and we'll all know well in advance of December 6th whether Notre Dame wins this game on Saturday and whether you want to continue or whether you want to buy those tickets. So I think some people are probably waiting to see what happens, but we'll see how it goes. So All right, let's go to the
Oh,
next question.
so much better, Vince. My dad didn't tell me he has a secret router in his room.
He does have a secret router. That he only uses for shows. So
Yeah, I'm connected to it now. So I think we're gonna be able to groove it. I was getting you would talk and then words would be lagging behind you, and I'm like, man, this is so frustrating. I need to fix this.
Yeah, you were freezing up and you were getting blurry. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if you knew the secret, so I wasn't even going to bring it up. So, all right, here's one from James, Jesse.
If Riley gets hurt against USC, do you think our chances are? What do you think our chances are against SMU or Indiana? Chances would be not nearly as good. But if you let me put it like this: if you had to play a game without Riley Leonard, SMU and Indiana, if you had to play a playoff game without Riley Leonard, SMU and Indiana would be the opponents that you would want to face. Essentially, I think you'd have a better chance against SMU or Indiana than the rest of the field. But I would put it at like a 50-50 chance because of how good their defense is and how well they run the ball. I think that you would just need, Angeli to kind of hit some passes when you need them. Against SMU and Indiana, I think you could really rely on your defense and run game. But the more you got into it, the more you'd start to feel the hurt of Riley Leonard.
If he gets hurt and let's just say he's out, right? Notre Dame has 3 weeks to get ready for whomever it is. I would be very interested to see how they go about that. Who's the starting quarterback is, what the game plan would be, with 3 weeks to prepare. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a toss-up, SMU and Indiana. I feel that they're very similar teams. To be perfectly honest with you, dynamic offenses, pretty good defenses, that kind of a thing. The key here is for me, Jesse, is that the defense is still intact.
Right.
And the Notre Dame's defense is elite, and they would have to go up against, Notre Dame's defense. So I don't think they would have to score a ton of points to win those games. And without Riley Leonard, maybe that's the case, right? So I think the chances are good against both of those teams. So
no matter if Riley Leonard or Steve Angeli is playing quarterback, the backbone of this team is how good they are defensively. That is what's going to keep them in every game going forward the rest of this season.
Well, speaking of IU, we got another question from Salty about the Hoosiers.
Did Indiana just get out-athlete by Ohio State, or was there a set of deficiencies revealed that will be the key to beating them in upcoming games? I mean, I think it was obvious that Ohio State's athletes moved a little bit better in space, but to me, the real issue, and Vince, I'll be curious to kind of hear what you have to say. You had to know that Ohio, I didn't like the way that Indiana was so persistent about running the ball. I thought that they had to find a way to move the ball through the air. And it felt like when Ohio State started to kind of maybe pull away a little bit, Indiana still stuck to, we're just going to run the ball. It felt like every first down was a run for them, and every second down was a run for them. So I think it was a little bit of a combination of, yes, Ohio State has better athletes, but I would have liked to see a different game plan or maybe some more in-game adjustments as the game kind of went on and it started to get off rail a little bit of maybe what you planned. But I really think I would have liked to see Indiana try to move the ball through the air a little bit more. I didn't think that them running the ball on Ohio State was going to go very well.
For me, did they get out-athleted? Yeah, to a degree they did. They also hadn't seen a defense as good as Ohio State's, and that was pretty evident throughout most of the game. And there's a debate going on social media right now, which is the better defense, Ohio State or Notre Dame. And I think that's a good debate, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think IU would struggle against Notre Dame's defense, just like they struggled against Ohio State's defense. It's a different level of defense that IU hadn't seen all year. Now they've seen it with Ohio State. That doesn't mean they're going to be able to react well to it. So, you know what I mean? Again, it comes down to Notre Dame's defense.
You still have limitations no matter what, As an offense, yes, they've played against good defenses, but what are you really going to do to overcome good defenses in a span of a couple of weeks? You're just not. I mean, what you have athletically is what you have athletically.
I completely agree with you. All right, let's get another. We got a few more here before we move on to good old rapid fire. Joe Allen feels like a very personal question here.
Yeah, it feels like he needs maybe an answer here to go back up his argument. But do you skip the in-laws Christmas to go to the Notre Dame playoff game if it falls on your birthday? Well, I'm skipping going to the in-laws on Thanksgiving. We always part ways on Thanksgiving, so we can do stuff together around Christmas. But I floated to the lady about the possibility of when Notre Dame could be playing upcoming, and she was like, "So you're telling me we would be in South Bend the 20th, go back to the Columbus, and then come back to Indiana on Christmas Day?" And I was like, "Well, if Notre Dame makes the playoff, then yeah, you just told me exactly what we're going to be doing." So I think that you can 100% say no in-laws because this is the first time ever Notre Dame has hosted a playoff game, and I think you got to be there for that.
Yeah, it's tough, Joe. I mean, short-term angst for long-term gain. I feel like, you're gonna like, especially if Notre Dame, especially if they play on Friday night, they will literally be playing in the first ever college football playoff 12-team bracket ever, right?
Ever.
You got to go to that, man. And like, now here's your out, Joe. If the game's on Friday night, okay, and I don't know what your travel plans are, how far away you are, but if it's on Friday night, you could legitimately go to the game on Friday, travel throughout the night or get up early on Saturday and still be at the in-laws for your Christmas. That's called the best of both worlds, Joe. That's where I'm at.
That's just putting in a little bit of heart and effort. If you really want to go to that game, you got to maybe you got to drive through the night, I don't know, but you got to do something.
You got to find a way.
There's always compromise to whatever you want, right? And
correct.
If you want to make it on time, again, maybe that means you got to drive at 2 a.m. No one wants to drive at 2 a.m, but all of us want to go to a football game. So
he says it's a 10-hour drive. Okay, well, hey, you hop in the car and you make that happen, dude. They drink some coffee, get some Red Bull, and you make that 10-hour drive happen, and you're there in time for Christmas morning. That's how you roll. All right, so Father David wants to know if we can cover his church service so he can go to the game. Are you talking Friday night, Father David, or you're just not going to make it back in time? That's probably what it is. Hey, man, if COVID taught us anything, you zoom that sucker in. You just get a monitor up front. You zoom it in from the hotel. All right. That's what COVID taught me. You can be two places at once.
And then you put it in the background. You get a little background going behind you, and no one even knows you're in a hotel room.
100%. Yeah. Oh, come on, man. You zoom that in. You zoom in for that one. Absolutely. All right. Special teams question. Got to throw this one up here from Salty.
If an opposing team has shown one or more fake punts, field goals in a season, what changes are made in preparation for special teams in game week? Well, to be honest with you, there's not – I'll give you the kind of secret sauce there is to punting and field goals when it comes to fakes.
Okay.
They're never the same, Vince. You never run the same fake punt or the same field goal. And so even if you've put something on tape, it's not necessarily – you're not like going back and figuring out how to defend that specific look. I think you're just on alert that, hey, this team has the ability or has shown that they're going to run fakes. So we just need to be alert of fakes, like alert. It's not, again, you don't game plan or practice for a fake that someone's already run because they're not running the same fake again. The fakes come based off of what you present on defense, right? So they're looking at your defensive punt return or punt or kickoff return formation. They're saying, we like the numbers we see here. We feel like we can, maybe get some sort of fake in, but the fake is derived off of the opponent. You're not running the same fake every week. So these teams, if you're Notre Dame and you're looking at, okay, maybe USC or maybe a playoff team potentially, if they've run something before, you're just alerting that they've done it. You don't necessarily know what kind of fake they're going to run. You just have to be kind of prepared for it at the end of the day.
I'm putting this in the chat, but I'll just read it anyway. Father David said he'll live stream from the grotto. I think your congregation would appreciate a live stream from the grotto. I'm just saying. I think that would be solid. As far as special teams is concerned, you have to be able to differentiate, their everyday punt from any kind of something that might be different. Okay. You just got to be on alert. You got to be ready for it. And, you know, that you can't just go out there and just assume they're going to kick it every time. I want to show you something. And this is something that my kid pointed out to me. Okay. So last week we're watching the Penn State game against Minnesota. And everybody remembers the punt fake, right? And what happens? I'm going to pull up this screenshot. Okay. I'm going to take away this question so everybody can see it. All right. Take a look at, hold on. Let's see if I can get this full screen. There we go. So take a look at the snapper on this play. This is before the punt fake happened. What do you see, Jesse? If you are number 16 for Minnesota, what do you see from the snapper?
That he's looking and cocked, not towards the punter.
He's completely cocked the wrong way. He's not snapping to the punter. Like, how do you miss that? If you're, that's poor
and
coaching.
So that's what I mean of if you're on defense, you have to be alert, essentially. You have to be looking for these sort of things. You're not just going out there and, they're going to punt the ball. We're going to get the ball back. Like you need to be doing recon. You need to be looking around, and especially on like the short down situations, like 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, 4th and 3,
in a big moment like this.
In a big moment. Yes. You just have to be aware of your surroundings, Vince. You got to look around and say, what's off right now? What doesn't feel right now? And what's really funny, Vince, is even me, and I swear to this, even me sitting on my couch watching this game, I was like, this just feels like a situation where Penn State is going to run a fake. And sure and behold, what happens? They run a stinking fake. And so if I can sniff that thing out from sitting on my couch, how is number 16, who is standing over the long snapper, not able to sniff this thing out? It's unacceptable.
His feet are cocked. His body is cocked.
His butt is cocked.
His head. He's looking at 85. He's not even looking at the punter. Like, how can you miss that, man? Like, Minnesota deserved to lose at that moment right there. If you can't sniff that out, man, that's rough. That's rough. Like I was sitting there watching the game with Dylan, and he's like, "Guys, they're going to punt it. Look at the snapper." I was like, "Yeah, they sure are. Let me get a picture of that." Boop. I'm there, and they sure did. So, just wanted to throw that out there. I thought that was, frankly, it was embarrassing, is what that was. But anyway, let's wrap up with a few more questions here. Ooh, good one from DK for you, buddy. It says, Jesse, what would your defensive game plan be for USC?
My game plan would be, so 2022, I feel like Notre Dame was all geared up to let's stop Caleb Williams in the passing game. And what really destroyed them, Vince, was how well USC ran the ball that year. So, and then last year, it was just a mirage of getting pressure on Caleb Williams and not allowing him to throw the ball. I think Lincoln Riley's offense is still predicated around throwing the ball. This guy has, on average, thrown the ball around 35 times in his last 2 games since becoming the starter. Miller Moss was a guy who also threw the ball a lot. So I think first and foremost, you got to lock down your coverage in the secondary. But you can't just let the quarterback sit back there. I think you got to find ways to bring, 4-man, 5-man, and even 6-man pressures to get him off his landmarks like they did with Williams last year and get him to throw some uncomfortable throws that turn into turnovers. But again, first and foremost, though, you got to stop the run. But again, I think USC is going to be looking to throw the ball. So you can't allow him to have clean pockets. You got to bring pressure and find ways to bring pressure with the minimal amount of people, right? Can you get pressure with 4? Can you get pressure with 5? Because the less you need to get pressure, the more you can drop into coverage and really kind of confuse the quarterback. So I think there's going to be a lot of zone blitzes and a lot of kind of pre-snap confusion to get this quarterback to really think, right? Like that's our goal, and getting these quarterbacks to read his defense. And maybe too, that means, you split the field in half and maybe you're playing man on one side of the field and zone on the other. I just think you have to do a lot to confuse this quarterback while also putting pressure on him at the same time. Cause I think that's going to lead to a lot of bad throws.
I could not agree more. Pressure that quarterback, pressure, make him not enjoy playing in this game. If you do that, this game's going to be over real quick, in my opinion. So I completely agree with you, man. Completely agree with you.
Vince, I just stumbled across a fun article before we get into rapid fire here.
Hit it.
It gives the amount of push-ups you should be able to do for your age.
Oh, interesting.
So for 25-year-olds, it says you should be able to do 30 push-ups. For 35-year-olds, it says you should be able to do 20 push-ups. I'm right in the middle, so my number would be around 25 push-ups.
We're talking all the way down, like to the fist to chest, right?
Consecutive,
okay,
legit, all the way down, all the way up push-ups. 25 push-ups. I think in my youth, I could have crushed that, no problem.
Yeah.
Today, I would struggle. I would feel it, but I think I could get it done at the end of the day. It would be a struggle, but I could knock out 20 to 25 push-ups.
I need to know what it is for 45.
45-year-olds, 16 push-ups. Can you do 16 push-ups, Vince?
I'll be 44 in a month and 2 days. I feel like I could absolutely get 16 out. I feel very, very good about that. I would be sore, but I feel very confident about that. What is it for like 18-year-olds? It's got to be up there.
So unfortunately, it only starts at 25-year-olds, and that's at 30. So
18-year-olds aren't reading these stupid articles. That's why.
Yeah, I would say 18-year-olds is probably, if I had to guess a number, I would ballpark it around 40.
Yeah. My kid could just drop down and just start pumping them out.
Oh, dude. In high school, I weighed 215, 220, and I could get close to 60 or 70 push-ups.
Yeah.
And your son is stronger by body mass and probably weighs less than I did. So that man could probably get close to what, like 80 if he really wanted
easily.
to?
He's at the gym right now, if that tells you anything, because he just loves the gym. I don't know where he gets that from. It wasn't from me. That's for darn sure. Jesse, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Some Thanksgiving rapid fire.
Some Thanksgiving rapid fire. All right, here we go. Let's roll into this thing. Helps if I had the right tab open. All right. Buy or sell the fact that the Irish are still behind Penn State in this week's version of the college football playoff rankings.
I sell it, and I think I was going to sell it. It's just frustrating because like what this committee is saying, Notre Dame, Penn State, same record. Who has the worst loss? Notre Dame. And then that's exactly what their basis is. But I think that's lazy because I think that loss happened so early in Notre Dame's season that you need to look at what have they done since the loss. Notre Dame, since their loss, has I would say projected this way. Penn State lost in a sloppy game to Ohio State, and they've been kind of going like this, if not kind of trending downwards in their play recently. But, I was reading something today that said, Notre Dame playing USC is a good thing because it's a common opponent of, of Penn State and Notre Dame. And if Notre Dame really does well and continues kind of how they've been playing, they could see Notre Dame jumping Penn State in that final ranking. So, maybe some of you might say it doesn't matter, but to me, it really matters because I'd like Notre Dame to climb one more spot because that means their second round game is against the Group of Five champion or the ACC champion and not the Big Ten or the SEC champion. So it matters. If Notre Dame can jump Penn State, it matters. And I think that they can do it if they go into USC and just blow them out this weekend. And we get lucky that maybe Penn State struggles against, I think they play Maryland this weekend.
They do. They play Maryland. And look, I thought it was going to happen this week because Penn State struggled to beat a very, very mediocre Minnesota team by a point, and Notre Dame blew the doors off of Army, who was the committee's 19th ranked team. I don't care that it was Army. The committee ranked them 19.
And they were undefeated.
And they're going to play in their conference championship game. So I thought it was going to happen this week. I think next week, once the USC game happens, I agree with you. Now they'll have two common opponents. Notre Dame beat Purdue by 20 more points than Penn State did. The problem is, that's the one common opponent right now. The Purdue's won and whatever. Like, they're terrible. Like, they're a terrible football team. So everybody's going to beat the brakes off of them. USC is a different conversation, right? So USC, Penn State had to take them to overtime. They were trailing the vast majority of that game. Frankly, USC should have won that game. If I remember it correctly, it was obviously way at the beginning of the season. They should have won, and they didn't. And Penn State got that victory. Good for them. Overtime, won by 3. That data point will be very, very important after next week because now there's going to be two common opponents. Notre Dame will have beaten both common opponents by more. And then you look at the rest of the strength of schedule, and I just think Notre Dame will be better at the end of the day when you're just comparing resumes. So I do think they're going to flip. And I also agree with you wholeheartedly that it is extremely important. There's a big difference between 6 and 7. Big difference. And Notre Dame getting the 6, makes their path that much easier. And for all the people that want, Notre Dame to play harder opponents to win the championship, again, I don't care. I just want them to win. So it doesn't matter to me who they play. It really doesn't, right?
Man, the hard part of that is you can't control at the beginning of the season. Florida State, Louisville, USC, Texas A&M were all on your schedule. Those
right.
are you can't control what other teams do. You can only put them on your schedule.
No, I completely agree. Roger Dodger, USC was up 20-6 over Penn State and then choked. I agree, man. And like I said, it's rare that I root for USC, but I was rooting for USC in that game, and they disappointed me greatly.
Well, and the thing is, if you listen to Marcus Freeman's press conference on Monday, USC has been in or leading just about every game in the fourth quarter. They are a team who could very easily be, 9-2, 8-3. They've had a couple of those games just not go their way late in the fourth quarter. And so, Notre Dame should win this game, but I guess don't be surprised if it's a little tight to begin with, right? But I think if Notre Dame executes how they're supposed to, there should be no issues at the end of the day.
Is Notre Dame getting punished for the NIU loss? To a degree. I mean, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 one-loss teams in the playoff right now. Notre Dame is ranked 3rd. I'm sorry, 4. Wait, hold on. I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6, 6 one-loss teams in the playoff. They're ranked 4th right now. They're ahead of Miami. They're ahead of Boise State. They're behind Penn State, Texas, and Ohio State. Some of that will get figured out on its own because Ohio State's going to play Oregon, right? So are they getting punished? Yes, but they're also ahead of Miami, for example, and Notre Dame's loss is worse than Miami's loss. So, I'll give the committee a little bit of credit as long as they end up doing the right thing next week. That's going to be the biggest thing for me. I don't see the argument to keep Penn State above Notre Dame if Notre Dame does what they're supposed to do against Penn State. So we'll see how that goes.
Vince, the thing that actually makes me the most mad outside of, Penn State being ahead of Notre Dame is just simply the fact that it feels like every time Notre Dame's ranking gets revealed on these shows, they never start or lead with saying positive anything about Notre Dame. As soon as that ranking is revealed, it is always something negative about Notre Dame. The first week it was, the NIU loss. And then I think this week it might've been like strength of schedule or something. It's just like, why can't you just say, yes, the NIU loss happened, but since then, Notre Dame has had a top 5 defense, a top 5 offense. They're beating teams by 30 points per game. They're physically, asserting themselves, et cetera, et cetera. I get so tired of ESPN blatantly showing their biasy by as soon as they unveil Notre Dame's ranking, just immediately something negative to say. They never have anything good to say about Notre Dame to support their ranking, in my opinion.
Agreed. I completely agree. All right, let's see here. How about this one? The video showing the Cal equipment manager tackling a guy who tried to steal one of the Cal Bears helmets is blank.
Is freaking awesome. Is a reason that guy deserves a scholarship. Like, if you watch the full video, Vince, that man hit full-on sprint speed and chased him into the middle of the crowd and then, suplex tackled him onto the ground. It was textbook form in terms of running. It was textbook form in tackling. And at the end of the day, I saw this the other day too, Cal, when they were doing their film breakdown, the head coach brought up the clip and put it on and showed his entire team and was like, they did a breakdown of him tackling the helmet stealer. So, awesome. I just think it's awesome at the end of the day, right? And I think that and then another thing I saw was Jim Nagy, I think the guy who runs the Senior Bowl, tweeted and said, if you ever want a spot at the Senior Bowl, just like let me know. So
I thought that
you
was
know what I mean?
awesome.
It's just the greatest way to get publicity at the end of the day, right? Because I mean,
Right.
it's not like they're gonna offer you a scholarship to be on the team or something, but like
Right.
it just shows that, you know, even if you're an equipment manager or, you know, someone on the strength staff, everyone's bought in. Everyone has a role in the team and everyone takes it seriously. So it's good to see that this guy takes his job seriously and he was willing to track down this helmet thief.
Hey, man, in the world of NIL, they should be giving some of these managers a free ride. You know what I mean? These guys work hard and, you know, it obviously means something to him if he's willing to tackle a guy to get a helmet back that he's not personally paying for, right? And yes, helmets are very expensive. Each helmet is probably $300 to $500.
They are
depending, and they have usually these teams have multiple helmets and all these different things. So yeah, very expensive. You don't want to really just lose one to some random fan that just decides to steal it. That's messed up. Okay, how about this one? Do you buy or sell? This is an interesting one because I saw this kind of debate going on back and forth on social media today. Do you buy or sell the fact that the 5 seed has a better path to the college football playoff? And if you buy this, is former Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick a genius for guaranteeing that Notre Dame is in this spot if they're having a good season?
So, Vince, this stuff really irks me because I don't buy it because it's so situational. You don't know how 1 through 4 is going to be ranked. In this season specifically, is it advantageous to be the 5 seed? Oh, for sure, it's going to be advantageous to be the 5 seed, right? Because you get the 12, and then after that, you're going into, you know, likely the ACC champion or the Group of 5 champion, right? So yeah, it's advantageous, but who's to say an ACC team and Big 12 team don't go undefeated? They get the 1-2 spots, and you get a 1 or 2 loss SEC or Big 10 team
right
in the 3 or 4 spots. So my question is, my answer is I'm selling it because it is so situational. It is dependent on how that 1 through 4 goes. And you can't guarantee that, you know, every year the ACC or the Big 12 are going to be the 3 and 4 spots. It's just how the thing, like last year, undefeated Miami would have been undefeated Florida State would have probably been a 1 or 2 seed, right? And so in that situation, it would not have been advantageous to be the 5 because you would have probably played a 1 or 2 loss SEC team in the first round. So it's just dependent on the year, Vince. It's dependent on how 1 through 4 gets ranked. It's just this year, the 5 seed is going to get to play the ACC champ or the Group of 5 champ in the second round. So yes, of course, it's going to be advantageous to be the 5 seed.
I like the way you think. I never thought of it as a hugely advantageous spot to be in, but this year is just highlighting the fact that it is for this year. I completely agree with that. You know, I still feel like every single year, Notre Dame being the 5, if that's what ends up happening, is fine. I have no problem with Notre Dame being the 5 because they get the same amount of time off as the conference championship. Or I mean, excuse me. As a conference champion, they get the same amount of time off. They get 3 weeks off, and you know they benefit from not having to play in the conference championship game. So I think Jack Swarbrick is a genius for what he did there, no doubt about it. This year,
sure.
It is advantageous to be the 5 seed, but you're right, that won't always be the case because there's a pretty severe drop off, I would say, from the 1-2 to the 3-4. Right. I mean, that's not always going to be the case.
Exactly. You don't know how that 1 through 4 is going to stack up.
Right. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Notre Dame, the Notre Dame men's basketball team lost by 1 in overtime last night. But the bigger story is that sophomore point guard Marcus Burton going down early in the game with an apparent knee injury. The prognosis is still unknown at this time, but a scale of 1 to 10, your worry for this team if Burton is on the shelf for a considerable amount of time.
Oh, Vince, I would be definitely concerned. I mean, we're talking about the best player on the floor for Notre Dame. We're talking about the guy who, the only guy who got NBA looks at the end of last season and was on the kind of fence of, you know, was he going to declare for the NBA or was he going to come back? And so I think when you're talking about your your best athlete and your guy who's projected to kind of go the furthest in his basketball career, then yeah, I think that this would be a tremendous loss for Notre Dame. And, honestly, I didn't even know Marcus Burton got hurt. And yesterday I parlayed Kansas and Notre Dame to win their games. And that Notre Dame game didn't start until like an hour later.
12:30.
So I was like, you know what? I can't do this. I'm going to bed. And last time I saw Notre Dame was up 10, I was like, oh man, parlay's looking good. I should be good. And then I wake up in the morning to see that they lost in overtime by 1 and Burton got hurt. And I was like, well, this is lose, and even more lose at the end of the day. So really stunk. And I hope he's doing well. I kind of think I saw someone today on social media that was like, kind of upset that they weren't maybe disclosing what was going on with his knee yet. And, these players are still human at the end of the day. And, honestly, most of them get 2, 3, 4 opinions, right? Like they want to see what the best solution is. Like I know when Dak tore his hamstring, he went to several doctors just to kind of, maybe verify, can I come back? Should I just shut it down? Do I need surgery? So when something this severe happens, you're talking about someone's knee, I just think it's going to take a little bit of time to really figure out what exactly is going on and what the best solution is for Marcus Burton and the rest of his career.
Yeah, I'm nervous about what this is going to look like for him. I haven't gotten any updates about they're in Vegas. Obviously, they're looking for a spot to get an MRI and all that kind of stuff, and to try to figure out what the extent of the knee injury is. Hopefully, it's not. Hopefully, it's just a sprain. Hopefully, it's something that he can get over, relatively quickly. Because look, he's the only guy on this team that can score whenever he wants, like at will. He's the only person that can take the other team's best defender off the dribble. Bucket. Correct. And you need defenses to focus on him so that the other players on the team can get theirs. You know what I mean? Yep. Like he's the disher, he's the scorer, he is this team. And not saying the other guys aren't good, because they are, but they come back down to earth a little bit if he's on the shelf. So my worry level is like a 9.5. Right now. Look, Notre Dame will still scratch out a few victories here and there. They'll still play good defense. Micah Shrewsbury, is a really good coach. There's no doubt about it. But without Marcus Burton, this year is going to be a struggle. It's just going to be a struggle, which stinks because this team is fun to watch so far. The Dodgers signed Blake Snell, one of the top pitchers in free agency, to a 9-figure deal. So, Jesse, scale of 1 to 10, the chances that the Dodgers repeat this year?
I'd give this a solid 7 or 8 out of 10, Vince, because last year they had no pitching and still found a way to win a World Series. I mean, they had pitching, it just got hurt. They had a lot of injuries to their pitching throughout the season. And I guess I felt that the one thing they lacked was pitching, and I thought they were going to lose in the World Series to the Yankees because of their lack of pitching, but obviously that didn't happen, and now they're getting even more pitching reinforcements and deferring even more money and contracts and just keep signing all the best players in the world. So, I don't, and again, this is maybe a different conversation. I think Snell might be on the back half of his career, so I'm hoping that they just gave him all this money and this deal for a guy who's kind of going to start trending downwards. But I think that's the optimist in me, but I mean, again, like when you look at their offensive lineup, what they're going to get back in the pitching, and now you're adding even more pitching. It's like, how can they not be the favorites?
I mean, gosh, yeah, 7, because baseball's baseball, right? I mean, any of these teams can lose at any time, but man, they're addressing their needs. Let's put it that way. They're addressing their needs in a major way, and I wish, everybody wishes their team would do that. How about that?
So what's crazy though is I love the Dodgers mindset where they're just like, yeah, we don't care. We're just going to keep going after every best player.
Yeah, seriously. How can you not be a fan of that, right? I mean, if you're a fan of the Dodgers, you're like, yep, here we go. Load them up. It's all good. Load them up. I mean, their roster is just so loaded with talent, and they're not afraid to spend some money. So on that same line, the fact that the Cubs have signed one free agent at this point, and it's a reliever from your Guardians, is blank.
It's unacceptable, Vince. The Cubs have spent more time trying to figure out how they can flip and trade Cody Bellinger rather than doing some actual like free agency work this offseason. And it's very frustrating. It's like, well, instead of maybe trying to figure out how you can flip Cody Bellinger, why don't you just go out and test the free agency market? Because Vince, all of their big, bulky contracts are off the books. They don't have the Jason Hayward anymore. Kyle Hendricks is going to be off the books. Like, I don't know who their biggest contract is at the end of the day these days. I don't know. It might be Ian Happ or like Seiya Suzuki or something, but it's nothing big. It's nothing.
Right.
They don't have like a 10-year, $400 million contract on their books. So it's like, and they're top 5 in payroll. So it's like, you've got the money. I don't understand what they're doing because they have a great farm system. They were just on the brink last year, the last 2 years of basically being a playoff team. And it's like, you got a good farm system, you got Cody Bellinger, and you got lots of money. Like, how are you not finding a way to get players out of any of those 3 situations?
So your biggest contract, I just looked it up, is Dansby Swanson currently. He's sitting on a 7-year deal worth $177 million. So
that's nothing compared to some of these contracts.
Completely agree with you. Like, he's on the hook until 2029, which is the longest contract that the Cubs have, except for Shota Imanaga, who is on the hook until 2028, a 4-year deal worth $53 million. So
again, nothing crazy.
I know. So you're in order of average salary per year. You've got Cody Bellinger at 26. You got Dansby Swanson 25. Ian Happ at 20. Seiya at 17, and so is Jamison Tyon, so on and so forth. So there's plenty of room.
I mean, just to put it into comparison, Aaron Judge got 9 years, $360 million. Bryce Harper, 13 years, $330 million. Corey Seager, 10 years, $325 million. Garrett Cole, 9 years, $324 million. Like, Cubs have no one even over $200 million, So it's like,
right.
I don't know. It's they have more than enough resources to add to this team. So it's unacceptable that they just decide not to again and again and again.
They have 14 guys that are making more than the league minimum on their 40-man roster. The rest are all making league minimum.
That's insane. And having a top 5 payroll.
Yeah, just throwing that out there. So
we should bring up that question from John. I think it's something to.
No, do we got one? I wasn't looking.
The last one.
Here we go. John says the Big 12 champion should be ranked higher than any Group of 5 champion.
Vince, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they're all right in the neighborhood. Obviously, with Boise State being the highest ranked of all of the people that we're even referring to. The problem is, let me see here. So so you've got Boise State at 11, and then the closest Big 12 team is 16, Arizona State, and then 18 Iowa State, and then 19 BYU. That usually I would agree with this, right? I think that is, and you might see it because you're going to get 2 top 20 teams playing against each other in the Big 12 championship, right? So there's going to be a boost to whoever's resume wins the Big 12. Is it going to be enough to boost them past Boise State? Depends on what Boise State does in their championship game. If they just roll whoever it happens to be that they play, they may still be above Arizona State or whoever wins that game. I don't know that you can make a hard, fast rule that says they should always be ranked higher. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, I don't buy this. And the reason I don't buy this is I just think it's a simple eye test at the end of the day. What has the Big 12 shown you that they deserve to be ahead of the Group of 5 team at this point, right? Like, I feel like the Big 12 has been inconsistent and sloppy. And what you can say about Boise is they have one less loss, and they have likely, in my opinion, who the Heisman winner should be at the end of the day. And so you combine both of those things, the best player in football having one loss and still being a program like Boise State, who has played in big games before and done enough to hold your ground and even win some of those games. I have no problem with them being there because, again, it goes back to the eye test to me. Just watch what you – in the situation where it's this close, because I do agree it's close, just watch, right? And so I just feel like the Big 12 has just been so inconsistent, and Boise State, again, having one of the best players in the country, I think helps as well. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, we got one final question, Jesse. So on the eve of Thanksgiving, we've already done our Mount Rushmore of side items. We've talked about turkey. What are you most thankful for this college football season?
Yeah, so I like that you did college football season, so we don't have to get all emotional and sappy dappy. We could keep this,
Just keep it sports related.
just keep it sports related. I'm going to be honest with you, Vince. I am grateful for a head coach like Marcus Freeman. I think that he is the type of coach that this program has needed since, or maybe even before, Tyrone Willingham. His kindness, his ability to the way he takes into considerations the relationship and development of players is so refreshing. His openness is refreshing. His ability to take responsibility is refreshing. I just think he's the ideal head coach, and he's super young. He's super energetic, and I'm glad that Notre Dame is able to capitalize on someone like himself, kind of going forward, essentially, right? Like, this is the most excited and fun I've had with Notre Dame football in a long time, and I think it has to do with Marcus Freeman, the type of players that he's recruiting, the type of players that he's developing. Now he has his own, full coaching staff. I just think we're right on the cusp of greatness with Marcus Freeman, and so that's what I'm most thankful for.
I would say that I agree with you about Marcus Freeman. I think that's a really good answer, and it probably would have been my answer. But in the spirit of being different, I'm going to say the 12-team playoff. I think it has been so much fun to break down the rankings and dissect it and talk about, Notre Dame's place in it and everybody else's place in it and the SEC and the Big 12 and Ward Emanuel. And I mean, they have given us just ample stuff to talk about. And I honestly think that this 12-team playoff is going to be an absolute blast when it's all said and done.
Same.
We usually look forward to, a few bowl games, things like that. And the rest of the bowl games are like, well, I'm just watching football because I know the season's going to be over soon, that kind of thing. These games are going to be enticing. It is going to be so much fun to watch these playoff games. There's going to be so much on the line for all of these teams. I am really looking forward to all of it. And a home game at Notre Dame Stadium, yes, please. Like, I am fired up about it. So I'm thankful for the 12-team playoff. And I didn't think that's the way I was going to go with this. But it's the way I'm going now. So there we go.
Vince, I just thought about it. I was like, dang, Vince gets a free press box pass to that playoff game.
You know it, baby.
Because I was just thinking about, I was like, I really want to go, but I literally, what do you think, Vince, if you had to shoot from the hip, what do you think face value will be when those tickets hit the market?
Oh, man. 500? 600?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And all my buddies and I want to go, and it's like, man, it all sounds good until you get to checkout.
I'll give you my father-in-law's number. He's a season ticket holder. I don't think he's going to buy them.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So, saying.
Yeah, I think 500 is the floor, and I would not be surprised when those tickets get into the thousands. So
yeah. So hey, it's going to be a great atmosphere. I'm looking forward to it. So that's going to do it for this edition of IB Nation Sports Talk. Thanks, Jesse, for hanging out with us. Hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and enjoy it. Like I said, give your friend my best, as well as his family. Let him know I'm saying hey. And thanks, everybody, for hanging out in the afternoon show, the evening show. I hope everybody has a awesome Thanksgiving. Remember what you're thankful for and all that.
Stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely. We're thankful for IB Nation and everything that goes with it. So we appreciate you hanging out with us every day and all that. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We will talk again on Friday. And then we lead right up to the big USC game, the big rivalry. So Roger Dodger, only a couple more days, man. And we're going to have this thing, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So hope everybody has a wonderful holiday. Jesse, hope you have a wonderful holiday. I will talk to you later. So for Jesse, I'm Vince. We will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.